think it's just finding ways to keep reinventing our sound. I think that's the biggest challenge and the thing we always try to push ourselves into every time we approach making a new album. And then this one I think was a little different because we wrote this over a few years' time. Like we put out our last record very much during the pandemic, and so we started writing almost right off the tail of that because that's really all we had. We didn't get to tour on Wake Up Sunshine. So some of these songs on this record are a culmination of songs that we wrote almost 2 years ago at this point. And then it was about taking those and piecing those together with new music and making something that felt like it was still telling a story and had a message to it. And yeah, I mean, it's been fun. I think we added a lot of piano to this record, which was a new thing for our sound. And yeah, just it's always about encapsulating the things that make All Time Low, but not getting bored in the process creatively.
Yeah, I think like in the past, and I'm probably the most guilty of this, and maybe Ryan, Alex would have an idea and try to go a certain way, and we'd be like, no, that's not us, that's not All Time Low, and we would kind of like stop the process a little bit. Whereas like now when we write, like I feel like we just write a song just to write a song, and in the end, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't fit the record, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we just try to write great music and pick the best. I will say we definitely were, I think after the pandemic, way more open to just writing music just to write music, as opposed to making a record.
It didn't feel like we weren't shooting for a target through a lot of it. We were just writing songs and writing about what we were feeling in those moments. And I think the big through line that we found was that a lot of this record sort of reflects upon isolation and the isolation that we were all feeling and the disconnection we were feeling from the things and the people that we loved the most during all of that time. So it's very introspective, very reflective in the writing, but it's also sort of a message about like coming out of that cocoon, and who we are on the other side of it. I think that's a big part that gets explored as well. I think it was just the lack of pressure. We were just doing it when it felt right and when it felt good. We didn't really have a target in mind, so it wasn't like we were under the gun to finish something. Like sometimes you have a deadline and it's like your album needs to be turned in a month. What do you have? And it's like
we started writing our record we started writing new music in July when our record came out in March.
April, yeah.
So that's insanely fast to start writing a new record. But we weren't writing a new record per se, but like Alex said, we were just writing because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
We couldn't tour, so we just rented a house in Palm Springs and got COVID tested. There were 6 of us in there, and that's literally is what it is. And
that was the beginnings of it. And then, I mean, we wrote all the way through up until, Calm Down was like that last Hail Mary song for the record, and that was written right up almost when we were ready to start putting out music. So we wrote all the way through, and we picked the songs as we sort of like the ones that we felt best represented the body of work. But it was a long process.
Absolutely not.
No, not at first. We had written Sleepwalking, and we knew that was the first thing that we wanted people to hear. And I think Calm Down sort of fit this other vibe. The record is very like it's very two-sided. It's got stuff that's a little bit darker and kind of fits the mold of Sleepwalking, and then it's got a lot of stuff that's more piano based. And I think we kind of fell into that sound later in the process of making the record. So Calm Down is sort of the single from that batch of music.
I wish I could tell you. I literally have no idea.
I've tried to break it down. I think everybody loves a story, and that song is really vivid and imaginative with the story it's telling. And so I think people it's obscure enough because it sounds so personal. It's about a person, and so I think people assign their own meanings. And I think because it's telling this kind of dreamy story, I think people just run with it. So I think that's helped. But then beyond that, I think it checks a lot of boxes from like, it kind of came in that first wave of like pop punk and emo when it was really coming to the forefront. You had Fall Out Boy and Yellow Card and Sum 41 and all these bands sort of spearheading it at the time.
Yeah.
And somehow I think we sort of snuck in there. And now that it's come full circle more recently and people are sort of feeling nostalgic for that, I think we just got lucky that the song sort of existed in the zeitgeist a little bit, you know?
The weird thing about like Dear Maria is like, first of all, we never thought it was going to be the best song on the record. It was the first single was
It was
6
never-
Feet, 6
yeah,
Feet
it was
Under the
never
Stars
really a
was the
single.
first single, and that's the song that we thought was like the big song. And so Dear Maria kind of was like a slow grower in a sense that it didn't really become a single or become what it was until we started playing it live, and it kind of took on a different life
Sure.
of its own. So that's kind of usually how it goes though with songs, you know what I mean? It's like the ones you want to be singles never
Right.
are, and it's like the
Right.
ones that become singles
So
are
now
like,
you know for sure you have to play it.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So where do you put a song like that? Do you save it to the end, or do you change it up? Actually,
We've almost
open with it in
always,
the beginning.
Right?
we used to open
Okay.
with it, but we've almost always closed with it for years and
Yeah.
years.
Great question.
I would love to see a version of Warped Tour now with, you know, Willow and Kenny Hoopla and Beauty
How
School.
good is Kenny Hoopla, by the way? I
good.
feel like he gets so underrated.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Beauty School Dropout, Ben Camino. I think there's just a new wave of artists sort of that took kind of where pop rock, pop punk, whatever you want to call it, left off and ran with it and innovated. I think the ones that are really exciting and really stand out to me are the ones that are innovating and changing it and evolving it. And so some of those artists I just mentioned are doing that in a really exciting way. So I would think that they would sort of be the new faces.
What's crazy is like when we grew up going to Warped Tour, it was a lot of those, not a lot, but some of those bands that we grew up going to see at Warped Tour became stadium acts.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like My Chem, Fall Out Boy, Green Day, like all these bands, like some like really iconic bands, like Offspring, like, and so going back to do like a Warped Tour with like that would be wild. And I guess that's like similar to like just big festivals. these
So would you
days.
leave yourselves off the bill and just enjoy it? Or
No,
would you
we'd
guys-
have to be a part
Oh,
of it.
yeah,
I
I'd
feel
love,
like
I'd love to be a part of it.
it was so defining for us. You know, we
Yeah.
right out of high school, it was one of the first real proper tours that we became a part of,
Sure.
and we did it for years after that. So, I mean, we wouldn't be the band that we are today without the Warped Tour. So I would hope that we would be included in it. But I think back to that point, like the beauty of Warped Tour was always the old school meeting the new school. Like it was always, even when we got involved and came in as a new band, you know, we were on there with
No effects.
No Effects
Less
and
Than Jake.
Less Than Jake and these bands that had been doing it for years prior. And it was cool because there was almost this like a passing of the torch, and a lot of these artists would teach these younger artists how to handle themselves, how to carry themselves, and yeah, it was a good vibe.
I love Teenage Wrist.
Teenage Wrist is
I think
amazing.
they're really cool. They're pretty underground. They're pretty, you know, unknown. But I mean, I know people know them, but like they're not super known yet. And their last record they released is one of the more underrated, like kind of emo records I've heard in a long time. And they have a new one coming out that's very good. I think it actually might be out, but I love them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Static Dress. Like sort of very reminiscent of some of the hardcore bands that were on Warped Tour when we were coming up, and it definitely like again innovates on what that sound was then, and it's they're really exciting. We just played Red Rocks recently.
How cool is that?
That was pretty. That was the first time I think I've ever cried on stage.
Really?
I was like 2 songs in. I was like, okay, here come the waterworks, man. Like this is really.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments where
You
you're
said
like.
that? You said that to yourself out loud?
I said on the mic.
You went, oh no, here come the waterworks. You didn't
Middle
say that.
middle of the song. Oh, shut the fuck up.
Stop.
Here comes the waterworks.
I don't think he said that.
Yeah, Red Rocks is. I never even been there, so even like walking on stage for a sound check, I was like, the like I knew it was gonna be
Yeah.
big. I did not expect it to be that big.
And it's so in your face. The way that place is laid out,
it's so daunting.
They're like, it's 10,000 people, but it's like they're stacked on a ladder.
And the acoustics are apparently amazing.
It's unreal.
So
It's
like
amazing.
10,000 people kind of laid flat in front of you. It looks big, obviously. It's not small, but it looks different than like them being kind of like literally
They're sitting in bleachers.
yeah, like kind of like stacked up in
Sure.
front of your face.
One
All
big
you see
bleacher.
is people,
Yeah.
as opposed to like this, and it was very daunting.
And the
for
front
sure.
row is right there, like right in front of you. So it's
4
it's
feet
like,
away.
It's I think it has to be the only show that we played for 10,000 people where it felt intimate.
Yeah.
You know, usually those layouts, the crowd's kind of far away, but this was like I could reach out and touch the front row. It was wild.
Reach out.
lighter?
Love that question.
It's really funny.
No one's ever asked us that before.
It's a great question, and I think a lot of people would assume that it's gotten more eccentric and grandiose, but it's the other way around. Like we used to when we were a younger up and coming band. It was almost like we wanted to see what we could get away with asking for.
Yeah.
We had like an anvil on there just to see
Obviously.
if people would bring in an
We
anvil.
had puppies to play with.
Puppies.
When we got a lot of puppies.
Get out of here. That worked.
So basically,
huh?
anyone that worked at the venue that had a dog would bring the dog.
Yeah, we even
That was the best.
We worked with some rescues too, and they would bring the puppies, and then we'd try to get them adopted at the shows.
And then we'd have a bowl of M&Ms guarded by action figures, and we got that a good amount.
It was a big
But
one.
nowadays, we're just like Tito's, White Claw,
Water.
tequila, water, and we're good.
We had a stint with a bus driver, his name is Mike, for probably a good 5 years where he was our driver. And every time we would play in or around Wisconsin, we would
He's
all
from
wake-
there.
He was from the area.
Yeah, from the area.
We would wake up and he would have stopped at one of the best cheese spots. And we would just have
Salami and cheese.
We would just have an assortment of Wisconsin cheeses, curd, everything, and like piled up in the front lounge. It was like Christmas, but for like
There-
having
yeah.
tummy problems afterwards.
There's only
It's awesome.
there's only one thing I can say for Wisconsin, and that is the rave.
A great venue.
And that is the rave. And we weirdly consider the rave kind of one of our hometown shows when we play there.
For sure.
Because we've played there, I think 20 times, maybe 21 times. There's only one other band that's played there as much as us. I forget the name. It's a rock band. I can't remember
Is
who
it
it is.
Skindred?
No, not Skindred. Not Silverchair. Someone like that. But there's only one other band in the entire world who's played the rave as much as we have. Leslie, the owner, is a very close friend of ours, and we will never not play the rave. And we started, the first tour we ever did was 2006, and we played the bar, and we were one of 5 on the tour, opening up for Amber Pacific. And since then, we've gone and played at all the rooms.
Every room.
Every room, including the pool. We're the only band to play in the pool.
You played the pool, huh?
Yeah, the only band to play in
With
the
the
pool.
ghost and all the haunts. and all
Yeah,
that.
so we're from Baltimore, from the East Coast. We're East Coast kids, but we weirdly have this what we consider like a hometown venue in the middle of the country. We hold this whole
Awesome.
state very
Near and
close.
dear.
Yeah, near and dear. I eat all cheeses, but on a sandwich I gotta go Munster.
Wow.
Munster pepper jack for a little kick.
I'm gonna go with a nice aged Gouda.
Aged Gouda, can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Guys, I appreciate your time, dudes.
Thanks for having
I
us.
appreciate it. Awesome.